Admiral Taewon stood on the bridge of the Iron Resolve as his ship dropped out of stealth mode. 3 years of hiding were over in an instant. The massive Dreadnought revealed itself to the galaxy like a mountain suddenly appearing in the middle of a calm lake. The ship was beautiful and terrible at the same time. 2 kilometers of black metal and glowing blue lines shaped like a cathedral built for war. Every surface was covered in weapons that could crack moons. Every angle was designed to deflect incoming fire while focusing outgoing destruction. It looked like something angels would use to fight demons. "Sir," Chief Engineer Hyunseo said from her station, "revealing the ship will expose all our military capabilities. The aliens will know that humans aren't just peaceful explorers. They'll know we're warriors." Taewon watched the tactical display as another Velnathi ship dissolved under the Harvester's spore attack. Sometimes being a warrior is exactly what peaceful people need. The Harvester had grown even larger since the battle began. It was now over 2.5 kilometers long, its body swollen with consumed asteroids and alien metal. Tentacles thick as subway trains reached out to grab damaged ships and feed them to its many mouths. The creature's skin rippled with new growths, weapons and sensors that adapted to whatever the Velnathi threw at it. Navigation Officer Kyung looked up from her console. "Admiral, the alien fleet is down to 7 ships. At current loss rates, they'll all be dead in 20 minutes. "Not if we get there first," Taewon replied. "Helm, push the engines to maximum. I don't care if we burn out half the systems. Those people are dying." The Iron Resolve accelerated through space like a falling star. Its quantum engines bent reality around the ship, allowing it to move faster than physics normally allowed. Behind it, space itself seemed to burn with blue fire. On the Velnathi command ship, High Coordinator Thesmira felt the new gravitational disturbance approaching the battle zone. Her sensors detected something massive moving through hyperspace, but it was using technology she didn't recognize. The energy signature was crude but incredibly powerful, like a fusion bomb compared to their elegant particle beams. "What is that?" one of her officers asked in terror. "Are there more harvesters coming?" "No," Thesmira whispered, studying the readings. "This is something else. Something human." Captain Do-hyun, still aboard the alien ship, felt his heart stop when he saw the tactical display. He recognized the energy signature immediately. Every human military officer knew what it looked like when the Iron Resolve dropped its stealth field. "Oh no," he breathed. "They're not supposed to be here." Ambassador So-young looked at him with confusion. "Who's not supposed to be here? What's happening?" Before Do-hyun could answer, the human Dreadnought appeared on the view screen. Even the aliens stopped what they were doing to stare. The ship was massive beyond their comprehension, larger than their entire fleet combined. It moved through space with the confidence of a predator that had never met anything it couldn't kill. "By the ancient lights," Thesmira whispered. "What is that thing?" "That," Do-hyun said quietly, "is humanity's true face." On the Iron Resolve, Weapons Coordinator Minji was already targeting the Harvester's vital systems. The ship's AI, Jinwoo, had been analyzing the creature for the past 5 minutes, finding weaknesses that the Velnathi had missed in decades of fighting these monsters. "Neural clusters located," Jinwoo reported in his calm, electronic voice. "The creature has 17 major nerve centers. If we destroy them in the correct sequence, we can disable its regeneration abilities." "Time to target?" Taewon asked. 3 minutes to optimal firing position," Navigation Officer Kyung replied. The Harvester noticed the new arrival and turned its attention from the damaged alien ships. Several of its tentacles reached toward the human Dreadnought, launching spores and bioplasma in a concentrated attack. The projectiles struck the Iron Resolve's shields and simply disappeared. Absorbed by defensive systems that operated on principles the creature had never encountered. Engineer Hyunseo monitored the ship's systems as they approached combat range. "Shields holding at 98%. Their weapons can't penetrate our defenses." "Of course they can't," Taewon said grimly. "We built this ship to fight things much worse than overgrown space squid." The human Dreadnought began its attack run. Weapons ports opened along its hull like flowers blooming in metal gardens. Each gun was larger than most alien ships, capable of delivering destruction measured in scientific notation rather than simple numbers. "Target the first neural cluster," Taewon ordered. "Let's see how fast this thing can adapt to quantum weaponry." The Iron Resolve's main cannon charged with a sound like reality tearing. Energy gathered at the weapon's mouth until it looked like a captured star, brilliant and deadly and barely contained. When it fired, the beam carved through space itself, bending light around it as it traveled. The quantum lance struck the harvester's first neural cluster and simply erased it from existence. A section of the creature's body the size of a city block vanished, leaving behind only empty space and confused physics. The monster screamed. The sound traveled through dimensions humans couldn't see, a noise of pain and rage that made the Velnathi ship's instruments go crazy, but instead of healing like it always did, the wound stayed open. Black blood poured into space like an oil spill made of nightmares. Direct hit, Minji reported with satisfaction. The creature's regeneration rate has decreased by 15%. Taewon smiled coldly. Fire again. Different target. The second quantum lance removed another neural cluster. This time the harvester's scream was weaker, more confused. Its tentacles thrashed randomly, no longer coordinated by its distributed brain system. The spore attacks stopped as the creature tried to figure out what was happening to it. On the Velnathi command ship, Thesamira watched in stunned silence as the human warship systematically dismantled a creature that had terrorized her people for thousands of years. Each shot was perfectly placed, each attack designed to cause maximum damage to the monster's biology. How do they know where to shoot? One of her officers asked in wonder. They've been studying us, she realized. The humans have been watching our battles, learning our tactics, understanding our enemies. They know more about fighting harvesters than we do. Ambassador So-young stared at the tactical display, trying to process what she was seeing. The ship destroying the harvester belonged to her own species, but she didn't recognize it. It wasn't in any of the diplomatic briefings she had received. It was as if humanity had been keeping secrets from itself. Captain, she said to Do-hyun, how long has Earth had ships like that? Do-hyun's face was pale. I don't know. This is classified above my clearance level. I didn't even know it existed. The Iron Resolve continued its methodical assault. Each quantum lance removed another piece of the harvester's nervous system. The creature grew weaker with every shot, its movements becoming sluggish and uncoordinated. Bioweapons that had terrified alien civilizations for millennia were now useless against human defensive technology. Final neural cluster targeted, Jinwoo announced. One more shot will disable the creature completely. Negative, Taewon said, his voice hard as metal. Charge the planet cracker. I want this thing dead, not disabled. Engineer Yonseo looked up in shock. Sir, the planet cracker is designed for destroying space fortresses. Using it on a biological target is excessive. This thing has killed billions of aliens over the centuries, Taewon replied. Excessive is exactly what it deserves. Fire when ready. The Iron Resolve's ultimate weapon began to charge. Power flowed from the ship's quantum reactors into systems that could crack the crust of worlds. The Dreadnought's hull glowed with barely contained energy as forces beyond normal physics prepared to end the harvester's existence. The Velnathi fleet watched in awe and terror as humanity revealed what it was truly capable of when sufficiently motivated. The war began at exactly Oro 347 Earth Standard Time, when the Council fleet opened fire on Admiral Shin's outer defense platforms. They expected a quick victory against the smaller human force. Instead, they walked into hell. The platforms had been built to look like normal defense stations, but Dr. Nam's team had filled them with surprises. When the Council ships closed in for easy kills, the platforms exploded outward in all directions, sending millions of metal fragments tearing through alien hulls. Now, Admiral Shin whispered into his communicator. Throughout the solar system, hidden weapons came alive. Asteroid mining ships suddenly revealed massive railguns. Civilian freighters dropped their disguises and launched waves of nuclear missiles. Even the space elevators had been converted into giant mass drivers. The Battle of Seoul lasted 18 hours. When it ended, 37 Council dreadnoughts were either destroyed or crippled. The human fleet had lost 12 ships, but the real war was just beginning. On the dark side of the moon, Oh Da-un was launching her cyber attack. Her virus slipped through Council networks like a ghost, copying files and planting backdoors. Within hours, she had access to classified military communications, troop movements, and something even more valuable, the truth about other Council atrocities. President Jang needs to see this, she told her team, as data flowed across her screens. New Busan wasn't the first massacre. The Council has been doing this for decades. The files revealed a systematic pattern of genocide. Dozens of species had been eliminated or enslaved when they became inconvenient to Council interests. The peaceful Valdari had been wiped out for refusing to provide slave labor. The artistic Kithara had been destroyed because their culture was deemed corrupting. The list went on and on. Broadcast everything, Da-Un ordered. Every world needs to see this. While Da-Un fought her information war, Captain Kang Min-ho was leading humanity's physical response. His special forces units had been inserted deep into Council space, through smuggling routes and diplomatic channels. Their first target was Rigel Station, a massive military depot that supplied the Council's eastern fleets. Kang's team of 50 soldiers faced a garrison of 5,000 aliens. "Remember," he told his people as they prepared their assault, "we're not here to fight fair. We're here to make them pay for New Busan." The attack began with suicide drones piloted by artificial intelligence. They crashed through the station's shields and detonated nuclear warheads in the ammunition storage areas. The explosions tore Rigel Station apart from the inside. When Council reinforcements arrived, they found only wreckage and a recorded message from Captain Kang. "This is for the children you murdered. We're just getting started." Similar attacks erupted across Council space. Human special forces struck at supply depots, communication centers, and military academies. They didn't try to hold territory. They just destroyed everything valuable and disappeared. The psychological effect was devastating. Council forces began to fear that humans could be anywhere, could strike at any time. Alien soldiers started shooting at shadows. Meanwhile, General Lee Young-suk was preparing for larger operations. Intelligence from Da-Un's cyber attacks had revealed that the surviving New Busan colonists were being held on a prison world called Korriban. "Prime, it's a fortress world," her intelligence officer warned. 20,000 guards, orbital defense platforms, shield generators. A direct assault would cost thousands of lives. "Then we don't assault it directly," Lee replied, studying the prison layout. "We turn their own defenses against them." The rescue mission began with Da-Un's hackers taking control of the prison's computer systems. They disabled the guards' weapons, opened all the cell doors, and turned off the gravity in the guard barracks. While chaos erupted inside the prison, Lee's assault teams landed and fought their way to the human prisoners. They found Governor Tae-min barely alive, Choi Hye-jin sick from torture, and Communications Officer Jin Woo planning an escape that would never have worked. "Are we too late?" Lee asked Tae-min as her medics worked on him. "Not too late," he whispered. "Never too late for justice." The rescue of the New Busan survivors was broadcast live across the galaxy. Taemin's testimony about the massacre reached billions of alien civilians who had believed the Council's lies. "They came to our world in peace," he said, his voice weak but clear. "We welcomed them as friends. They repaid our hospitality by murdering our children and calling it justice." The broadcast caused riots on dozens of Council worlds. Alien species that had trusted the Council for centuries began asking hard questions about their government's actions. On the Eldari homeworld, peaceful protesters filled the streets demanding answers about New Busan. On the industrial world of Vega Prime, workers went on strike rather than build weapons for a government that murdered children. High Counselor Morden watched his empire begin to crumble from within. "How are the humans doing this?" he demanded. "They have fewer ships, fewer soldiers, fewer resources. Why are we losing?" Commander Vextar, now missing his left arm from a human ambush, tried to explain. "They don't fight like civilized beings. They use tactics that violate every law of war: suicide attacks, cyber warfare, turning populations against their own governments. Then we respond in kind," Morden decided. "Deploy the planet-killer weapons. Threaten to destroy human worlds until they surrender." It was the worst decision the Council could have made. When news of the planet-killer threat reached Earth, President Young called an emergency session of the human government. Every representative attended, either in person or by quantum communication. "They want to play with doomsday weapons," she announced. "Very well. Dr. Nam, report on Project Prometheus." Dr. Nam stood slowly. "We have 47 planet-killer devices hidden throughout Council space. Each one is targeted at a major alien world. If they destroy one human world, we can destroy 50 of theirs." The room was silent. Even the human leaders were shocked by the scope of their preparations for total war. "Are we really willing to commit genocide?" asked one representative. They already committed genocide against us, President Jiang replied. The question is whether we're willing to let them do it again. The vote was unanimous. Within days, Admiral Shin's fleets were moving against major council strongholds. The Battle of Vega Prime became legendary. Human ships used the planet's own defense grid against the council garrison, turning their shields into a trap that crushed them from all sides. At the Battle of the Neutral Zone, Captain Kang led a desperate assault against a council fleet twice the size of his own. When his flagship was crippled, he rammed it directly into the council command ship, destroying both vessels and killing himself in the process. His final transmission was heard across the galaxy. For New Busan, for the children, for humanity, the war had become total. There were no rules, no mercy, no limits. Humans fought with the fury of a species that had been pushed beyond all reason, while the council fought with the desperation of a government watching its empire collapse. But the tide was turning. Every day brought new alien species withdrawing their support from the council. Every battle showed that humans were willing to pay any price for victory. The council had crossed a line when they murdered children. Now they were learning the cost of that decision, and humanity was just getting started. The meeting was going better than anyone had hoped. Ambassador Soyoung sat across from High Coordinator Thessamira in the Velnathi ship's conference room, which looked more like a garden than a military vessel. Plants grew from the walls in impossible spirals, their leaves changing color as the aliens' emotions shifted. The air smelled like flowers and rain. Wan Yung had just finished presenting human music to the alien delegation. She played everything from classical symphonies to modern electronic beats. The Velnathi listened with their large eyes closed, their skin shimmering with patterns that matched the rhythm. When the music ended, they shared their own art. Mathematical equations that somehow sounded like singing when spoken aloud. Your species creates beauty from chaos, Thessamira observed. Her voice filled with wonder. Most young races focus only on survival and expansion, but humans make art even in the middle of war. This is unusual, Soyoung smiled. We believe that beauty is what makes survival worthwhile. Without art, music, and stories, what's the point of living? The alien coordinator's skin glowed brighter, which Wan Yung had learned meant approval. We would very much like to establish trade relations with your people. Our scientists are fascinated by your approach to faster-than-light travel. It is crude but effective, like using a hammer when others use surgical tools. Yet somehow your hammers work just as well as our tools. Captain Do-hyun, watching from his position near the wall, felt a moment of pure joy. This was actually working. Humanity was going to join the galactic community. His children would grow up in a universe full of friends and allies, not alone in the dark. That's when the alarm started screaming. The beautiful conference room suddenly filled with red light. The flowering plants on the walls withered and turned black in seconds. Thessamira's skin went pale, all the color draining out of it like water from a broken glass. What's happening? Soyoung asked, standing up quickly. Thessamira was listening to something in her earpiece, her expression growing more terrified by the second. Harvester, she whispered. A Krexlan harvester just dropped out of hyperspace. It's huge. Through the conference room's transparent walls, they could see the Velnathi crew running to their battle stations. The graceful, artistic ship was transforming into a war machine. Weapons unfolded from hidden compartments. Shield generators hummed to life. But even with all their preparations, the aliens looked scared. Do-hyun was already moving toward the communication panel. I need to contact my ship immediately. Of course, Thessamira said, but her attention was elsewhere. She was receiving constant updates from her fleet. The creature is massive, over 2 kilometers long. It's already begun consuming the asteroid belt. On the main viewer, they could see it. The harvester looked like someone had taken a deep-sea creature and grown it to impossible size. Its skin was black and wet, covered in mouths full of spinning teeth. Tentacles longer than Earth's tallest buildings reached out to grab asteroids and pull them into its many stomachs. As it fed, it grew larger. Harmony's voice, "This is the captain." Do-hyun spoke into his communicator. What's our status? Sir, we've got a Krexlan harvester bearing down on the fleet. The alien ships are moving to engage, but their weapons aren't doing much damage. That thing's healing faster than they can hurt it. Do-hyun looked at the tactical display. The Velnathi had 12 ships, all of them smaller than the monster but much faster. They were attacking in coordinated waves, their energy beams carving bright lines across the harvester's skin. but every wound they made closed within seconds. The creature's biology was too advanced, too adaptive. "Captain," Thesamira said urgently, "your ship must leave immediately. Your people are not equipped for this kind of battle. We have fought these creatures for millennia, but they are nearly impossible to kill." "What about you?" So-Young asked. "We will do our duty," the alien coordinator replied. "Some of us will survive. Some will not. That is the way of war against the harvesters." On the screen, the monster launched a cloud of spores toward the nearest Velnathi ship. The alien vessel's shields flared and died. The spores ate through the hull like acid, and the beautiful crystalline ship began to dissolve from the inside out. The crew's screams came through the communication channels before the signal cut to static. Do-hyun made a decision that would change everything. His orders were clear. Protect the diplomatic mission. Avoid any actions that might make humans look aggressive or warlike. But watching aliens die while he ran away felt wrong. It felt cowardly. He activated his emergency communicator, the one with encryption so advanced that only one person in the fleet could receive it. "Admiral, this is Captain Do-hyun. We have a Code Black situation. Repeat, Code Black." 3 light hours away, Admiral Taewon received the message while standing on the bridge of humanity's most powerful warship. Code Black meant civilians were dying and only military intervention could save them. It was the signal that overrode all other orders, the one that said morality mattered more than politics. The Iron Resolve had been watching the diplomatic meeting through long-range sensors, under strict orders to observe only. The massive Dreadnought was humanity's newest and deadliest weapon, designed to fight threats that conventional ships couldn't handle. Its quantum weapons could crack planets. Its armor could survive the collapse of stars. Its AI could calculate battle strategies faster than most species could think. But revealing its existence would tell the galaxy that humans weren't the peaceful diplomats they pretended to be. It would show that humanity built weapons capable of destroying civilizations, just in case they needed them. "Sir," his communications officer said, "we're receiving desperate signals from the alien fleet. They're asking for any assistance we can provide." Through the view screen, Admiral Taewon could see the Harvester methodically destroying ship after ship. The Velnathi were brave, but their weapons were designed for precision, not raw destruction. They carved beautiful patterns in the monster's flesh, but beautiful wasn't enough. The creature just kept growing, kept healing, kept killing. Another alien ship died in a ball of dissolving metal and screaming voices. Taewon thought about his orders. He thought about his career, his family, and the political consequences of what he was about to do. Then he thought about the alien children who would never see their parents come home if he did nothing. "Helm," he said quietly. "Set course for the battle, maximum speed." His bridge crew stared at him in shock. "Sir," his first officer said carefully, "our orders specifically prohibit—" "I know what our orders say," Taewon interrupted, "but I also know what's right. Prepare for combat. Signal the fleet. Humanity is no longer hiding." The Iron Resolve dropped its stealth field and accelerated toward the battle zone. For the first time in human history, an alien species was about to see what humans were really capable of when someone they cared about was in danger. The age of human diplomacy was about to end. The age of human warfare was about to begin. 3 weeks later, Ambassador So-Young sat in her office on Earth, staring at a stack of diplomatic messages that all said the same thing in different ways. "Thank you for saving our allies, but we need to reconsider our relationship with humanity." The Velnathi Confederation had withdrawn their offer of full alliance. Not out of ingratitude, they insisted, but out of caution. They wanted to establish limited trade agreements and scientific exchanges, but nothing that would require close military cooperation. The message was clear. They were grateful but afraid. Captain Do-hyun knocked on her office door and entered carrying 2 cups of coffee. He looked as tired as she felt. The past 3 weeks had been filled with debriefings, investigations, and political meetings that seemed to go in circles. "Any word from the other alien civilizations?" he asked, setting 1 cup on her desk. "The Zorthak Empire wants to establish immediate diplomatic relations," So-Young replied, reading from her notes. "They're impressed by our military capabilities and think we could be useful allies against their enemies. The Thessian Republic, on the other hand, has closed their borders to all human ships until further notice. They consider us a potential threat." Do-hyun sat down heavily. So we saved lives and made enemies at the same time. That's politics for you, So-young said with a bitter smile. Half the galaxy wants to be friends with the humans who have planet-cracking weapons. The other half wants to destroy us before we use those weapons on them. The door chimed and Won-young entered the office. The young cultural attaché had been promoted after her work during the first contact mission, but she didn't look happy about it. Her new job was analyzing how different alien species were likely to react to humanity's revealed capabilities. The intelligence reports are in, she announced, setting a tablet on So-young's desk. 17 different civilizations have started military buildup programs specifically designed to counter human quantum weapons. 6 others have approached the Krexlan harvesters trying to make deals with them. They're allying with the monsters we saved them from? Do-hyun asked in disbelief. Fear makes people do stupid things, Won-young explained. They figure that if the harvesters eat other civilizations first, humanity will be weakened by the time they get to them. It's not logical, but fear rarely is. So-young leaned back in her chair and closed her eyes. The first contact mission had been designed to show humanity as peaceful, artistic, and civilized. Instead, it had revealed them as the most dangerous predators in the galaxy. The irony was that the aliens weren't entirely wrong. Humans were dangerous when their friends were threatened. Her computer chimed with an incoming message marked, "Priority classified." She opened it and felt her heart sink even further. Admiral Taewon had been reassigned from court-martial proceedings to command of the new First Response Fleet. Instead of being punished for revealing military secrets, he was being given more ships and told to patrol the galaxy's trouble spots. What does that mean? Do-hyun asked, reading over her shoulder. It means Earth Command has decided to embrace our new reputation, So-young replied. If the galaxy sees us as dangerous guardians, then that's what we'll be. No more hiding, no more pretending to be weak. The message included a list of new ship deployments. 12 dreadnoughts would be stationed throughout human space, their quantum weapons visible on long-range scanners. The message was deliberate. Humanity was no longer trying to look harmless. On the other side of the galaxy, High Coordinator Thessamira was dealing with her own political problems. The Velnathi Council had spent weeks debating how to handle the human situation. Some members wanted to maintain friendly relations with the species that had saved their fleet. Others argued that humanity was too dangerous to trust. They could have destroyed us just as easily as they destroyed the Harvester, Councillor Vesathara argued during the latest debate. Weapons that can erase matter from existence don't distinguish between friend and enemy. They are equally deadly to everyone. But they chose to save us instead of destroying us, Thessamira countered. That says something about their character. It says they're smart enough to make allies before making enemies, another counselor replied. Classic predator behavior. They eliminate threats while gathering information about potential prey. The debate went on for hours, but the conclusion was always the same. Humanity was too powerful and too unpredictable to fully trust. The Velnathi would maintain diplomatic relations, but they would also begin building defenses specifically designed to counter quantum weapons. Admiral Taewon, now commanding the Iron Resolve as flagship of humanity's First Response Fleet, received daily intelligence reports about alien military buildups. Everyone was preparing for war with humanity, even the species they had saved. He understood the logic, but it still hurt. Sir, Chief Engineer Hyunseo reported from her station. Long-range sensors are detecting unusual activity in the Proxima sector. It looks like another harvester swarm. How many ships are threatened? Taewon asked. Approximately 40 vessels from 6 different species. They're sending distress calls, but they're not specifically asking for human assistance. Taewon studied the tactical display. The aliens were dying, but they hadn't asked for help from humanity. They were probably afraid of what the cost might be. Being saved by humans came with a price. Everyone would know that you needed human protection, which meant everyone would know you were weaker than the humans. Plot an intercept course, he ordered. We're going to help them whether they ask for it or not. Sir, his first officer warned, intervening without being asked could be seen as aggressive behavior. It might make the other species more afraid of us. Maybe, Taewon agreed. But letting people die when we could save them would make us the monsters they think we are. Set course for the swarm, maximum speed. The Iron Resolve and its escort fleet jumped to hyperspace, racing toward another battle they weren't invited to join. It was becoming a pattern. Humans would arrive uninvited, destroy threats that others couldn't handle, and leave behind grateful but terrified aliens who didn't know whether to thank them or run from them. Back on Earth, Won-Young was finishing her report on humanity's new place in the galactic community. The conclusions were disturbing but clear. By revealing their true capabilities, humans had gained the ability to protect others, but they had lost the chance to be truly accepted by them. "We are what we chose to be," she wrote in her final paragraph. "We could have stayed hidden and let others fight their own battles. Instead, we revealed ourselves as guardians who end conversations with monsters permanently. The galaxy will remember that the humans who save you are the same ones you should never threaten. We have become something unique in the cosmos, a species that others fear and rely on at the same time." She submitted the report and looked out her office window at the night sky. Somewhere out there, alien civilizations were building weapons designed to kill humans. But somewhere else, other aliens were going to sleep safely because humanity existed to protect them. It wasn't the future anyone had planned for. Humanity had wanted to be accepted as equals, not feared as superiors. But the universe rarely cared what people wanted. Sometimes you had to choose between being loved and being necessary. Humanity had made their choice the moment Admiral Taewon decided to save strangers instead of following orders. Now they would live with the consequences: eternal vigilance, eternal isolation, and the eternal responsibility of being strong enough to protect those who feared them. In the depths of space, monitoring stations detected new quantum signatures. More human dreadnoughts were patrolling the dark between stars, watching for threats, ready to respond to distress calls that might never come. The galaxy's self-appointed guardians had revealed themselves, and there was no going back. The age of human diplomacy was over. The age of human protection had begun, whether anyone wanted it or not. The end came faster than anyone expected. 2 years after the massacre at New Busan, High Counselor Morden sat alone in his private chambers on the council homeworld. Outside his window, he could see smoke rising from riots in the capital city. His own people were turning against him. The war had gone terribly wrong. What was supposed to be a quick lesson for uppity humans had become a galactic nightmare. 12 major alien species had withdrawn from the council. Entire sectors were in open rebellion. The economy was collapsing as more species refused to trade with the council government, and the humans just kept coming. "Sir," his aide announced nervously, "Admiral Vextar is here to see you." Morden barely recognized the former commander. Vextar had lost both arms and one eye in various human attacks. His scales were scarred from chemical weapons, and he walked with a heavy limp. "Report," Morden said wearily. "The 7th Fleet is gone," Vextar announced. "The humans destroyed our base at Kepler Station using some kind of new weapon that turned our own ship's engines into bombs. Casualties, 50,000 dead. No survivors." Morden closed his eyes. The humans had been getting more creative with their killing methods. They didn't just destroy council forces. They found ways to make the defeats as horrifying as possible, and the planet killer fleet, gone. The humans tracked down all 5 ships and destroyed them before they could reach human space. Apparently, their intelligence network is far more extensive than we realized. The intelligence network was Oh Da-eun's masterpiece. Her hackers had penetrated every major council computer system. They knew about military plans before some council generals did. More importantly, they had found the evidence that would finally end the war. On Earth, President Jang was meeting with representatives from 37 alien species. These were the governments that had broken away from the council after learning the truth about decades of genocide and oppression. "We have enough evidence to prosecute every council leader for crimes against sapient beings," announced the Eldari representative. "The documentation is overwhelming." "Justice is important," President Jang agreed. "But first we need to end this war. Too many people are dying every day it continues." Governor Taemin, now recovered from his injuries, spoke up from his seat at the table. "The council will never surrender as long as they think they can win. We need to show them that victory is impossible." That demonstration came in the form of Operation Nightfall. Admiral Shin had gathered the largest human fleet in history. Over 2,000 ships from every human world and space station. Their target was the Council's most important military stronghold, the fortress system of Drakmor. Drakmor was supposed to be impossible to attack. It had layered shields, automated defense platforms, and a garrison of 1 million soldiers. The Council had boasted that it could never fall. Human military engineers had been studying the problem for months. They couldn't break through the defenses by force, so they decided to bypass them entirely. The attack began with what appeared to be a standard fleet engagement. Admiral Shin's ships moved into position and began trading fire with the outer defenses, just like any normal battle. But hidden among the human ships were 50 vessels carrying Dr. Nam's latest invention, quantum phase bombs. These weapons could slip through shields by briefly existing in a parallel dimension. When the bombs detonated inside Drakmor's shield perimeter, they created a chain reaction that tore the entire fortress system apart. The shields collapsed, the defense platforms exploded, and the asteroid fortresses cracked open like eggs. The battle lasted 4 hours. When it ended, the Council's greatest stronghold was nothing but floating debris and radiation. Admiral Shin's final message to the surviving Council forces was simple. This is what happens when you murder children. Surrender now, or we'll do this to every world you control. The psychological effect was devastating. If Drakmor could fall in 4 hours, nowhere in Council space was safe. Alien populations began evacuating from major military worlds. Council soldiers started surrendering or deserting rather than face human forces. But Morden still refused to give up. In a final desperate gambit, he activated the Council's most secret weapon, a massive space station hidden in dark space between the galaxies. The station mounted a weapon capable of destroying entire star systems by triggering their suns to go supernova. If we cannot rule the galaxy, he announced to his remaining allies, then no one will rule it. We will destroy the human homeworld, and as many of their colonies as necessary to force their surrender. The station began moving toward human space, its doomsday weapon charging for the attack that would end billions of lives. It never had the chance to fire. Captain Kang Min-ho had died 2 years earlier, but his sacrifice had inspired thousands of other humans to follow his example. When human intelligence discovered the doomsday station, 300 volunteers immediately stepped forward for a suicide mission to destroy it. The attack was led by Colonel Park De-young, Captain Kang's former second-in-command. Her small fleet of 50 ships faced a massive battle station defended by the Council's elite guard. "Remember New Busan," she told her people as they began their final approach. "Remember the children." The battle was desperate and bloody. Human ships rammed through the station's defenses, exploding themselves against shield generators and weapon emplacements. Park's own ship made it to the station's reactor core before being destroyed by defensive fire, but she had done enough damage. The station's main weapon overloaded and exploded, taking the entire facility with it. The doomsday threat was ended, but at the cost of 300 human lives. When news of the station's destruction reached the Council homeworld, the remaining alien leaders finally understood the truth. Humans would never stop fighting. They would never surrender. They would pay any price, make any sacrifice to protect their people and punish those who harmed them. The final surrender came not from Morden, but from his own people. Hegemony security forces, horrified by their leader's willingness to commit galactic genocide, arrested him in his sleep. They delivered him to human forces along with a complete surrender of all Council military assets. The war was over. The trials took 3 years. Council leaders were prosecuted before a tribunal of 30 species for crimes against sapient beings. The evidence was overwhelming. Decades of genocide, slavery, and oppression justified by claims of galactic order. Morden's defense was simple. We were maintaining civilization. These lesser species needed strong guidance. Governor Tae-min, now serving as the chief prosecutor, delivered the final argument. Civilization isn't built by murdering children in their schools. It's built by people like Dr. Park So-young, who died protecting patients regardless of their species. It's built by teachers like Mr. Park, who spent his last moments comforting frightened children. The Council wasn't maintaining civilization, it was destroying it. The verdicts were unanimous. Most Council leaders received life sentences on prison worlds. Morden and the others directly responsible for the massacres were executed. A new galactic government was established, based on voluntary cooperation rather than forced submission. Every species had an equal voice, and military intervention was banned except for mutual defense. Governor Tae-min became the first human ambassador to the new Galactic Federation. At his inauguration, he spoke before representatives of over 100 species. We did not want this war. We wanted to be your friends, your partners in building something beautiful among the stars. When you forced us to become your enemies, we showed you what humans are capable of when pushed beyond all reason. Now we offer you the choice again, friendship or enmity. The decision is yours. The new government chose friendship. Trade resumed, scientific cooperation flourished, and mixed colonies like New Busan began appearing again throughout the galaxy. But the memory of the war remained. On worlds across the galaxy, alien parents told their children the story of the species that seemed gentle until their young were threatened. The story of the people who brought down the mightiest government in galactic history when that government crossed the line. Admiral Shin, now retired, often visited the memorial garden on rebuilt New Busan. 200 small stones marked the children who had died there, including the little blue Altaran boy who just wanted to play with his friends. Was it worth it? Asked a young reporter who was interviewing him for a documentary about the war. Shin was quiet for a long moment, looking at the memorial stones. The children who died here will never grow up, never have families, never see the galaxy we built from the ashes of the war. Nothing can bring them back. He turned to face the reporter, but their sacrifice ensured that no other children would die the way they did. The galaxy learned an important lesson. Humans can be the best allies you never expected, or the worst enemies you never imagined. The choice is always yours. In the end, that was humanity's true victory. Not the destruction of their enemies, but the creation of a galaxy where children of all species could grow up safe, knowing that someone would always stand between them and those who would do them harm. The Council had crossed a line, and humanity had responded with unrelenting fury. But when the fury ended, they had built something better from the ruins of what came before, and the galaxy was never the same.